The illustrious Jabba bids you welcome. I'm going to regret this.
I'm Pete Mitchell. He's Peyton Jones. And this is the Church Planter Podcast, brought to you by Church Planter Magazine.
Hey, Church Planter, this is Pete Mitchell. Hey, Church Planter, this is Pete Mitchell.
And this is Peyton Jones.
I just had to do it twice, that's all.
Oh.
Don't you worry about it.
It puts the podcast on its skin, or else it gets the hose again.
Don't you worry your pretty little head about the fact that I had to start the podcast twice. Don't you worry about that.
It's all right. It's all right. Did you hear what I said, though?
No.
It puts the podcast on its skin, or else it gets the hose. Better not. You know, Pete's holding up a mug that has a gun as the handle. You know who has that very same self mug? David Thompson of Newbury Church Planting.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, I'll be up in Oregon in about a week.
This was a gift from, I believe, Travis Sinks, planter in Florida.
Oh,
and Jedi Knight and friend of the Rebellion.
Hey, so when are you going to see the movie?
Tonight.
Oh, wow. Okay,
Luke,
so all I want is
I got tickets. Luke and I got tickets.
All I want is a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
Dude, the reviews have not been good.
I hear that, and I'm not surprised.
Yeah. Well,
if they can't go back and fix what was done wrong before, it's unsalvageable.
Yeah.
So my predictions, I just want for the fresh audience here, welcome to Church Planter Podcast. First half is Smack Talk. Second half is, well, you be the judge of whether or not it's church planting goodness, but that's the thought behind this anyways. But my predictions for the movie, and I know that Disney is not thinking this cool at all. Remember, Rey and Kylo, twins, separated at birth, Luke's kids, and he had them with Mara Jade, hand of the Emperor. They bring the Emperor back. The Emperor was Snoke as a hologram projection, much like Luke, right? They told us Snoke was a hologram the whole time we saw him until he was finally real, quote unquote, but he was a hologram. And the rise of Skywalker is Rey and Kylo.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. Those are my predictions. Darth Maul will make an appearance again.
What? Darth Maul?
Yeah. He's back. Remember in Solo, how he comes back?
Dude, but that was a movie. I mean, that was like decades ago.
I know.
Darth Maul would have to be really old.
But think about it. We're only talking like 40 years later, right? Which is the same distance between
as
the prequels and Solo.
Slightly older than 40 years old, I'm telling you, 40 years is a long time.
Oh, don't I feel it? 40 years ago, I was 6.
Wait, you're 46? Okay, sorry. That took me way too long to do that math in my head.
You know what? I live with a 10-year-old. I'm used to doing this kind of math.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I don't know. Luke and I got tickets for the 6:15 showing. We'll be showing up there. We'll be watching the movie, and he's going to be excited no matter what.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's kind of the magic of it. And going back to the prequels, right? Wasn't that Lucas's whole thing that he was like, I didn't make it for you adults that were kids then. I made it for kids today, like you were, which is a great way of explaining your way out of a bad movie if you make it. But I get that, you know, I think that's, if that's really what he did, that's commendable. But these films were made for adults, but they feel like they're made for kids, or at least Last Jedi. So let's see how it goes tonight. Last prediction, Baby Yoda. I pieced something together, got my tinfoil hat on. The Emperor wanted Baby Yoda to take the midichlorians because he needed that to rebuild his decrepit body.
That's... I don't even know what to say to that.
Well, think about it, right? Like that Empire guy in The Mandalorian, he wants Baby Yoda. He says he has to deliver him. Who's he delivering him to? After the Empire's crumbled, who's he working for? He's working for the Emperor.
I don't even know when The Mandalorian is supposed to take place.
Between Jedi and whatever Rey's movie was, The Rise of the Force.
Yeah, all I can say is I don't give a rip. Like, The Mandalorian is such a bad show.
I have not seen this week's.
Truly awful.
That shows you how it's wearing off for me.
Well, you know,
too.
a new one came out yesterday.
Oh, yeah, I heard that midweek. So I got 2 to catch up on.
Yeah.
I'm going to watch them.
I just didn't. I mean, it just keeps getting worse and worse. I only watched
first couple episodes. Yeah, first couple episodes, like drop everything when it comes out and watch it. It's not anymore.
No, it never was even then. It was stupid.
Yeah, it is for me now.
And, you know, we got our own Barry who did a recut of The Last Jedi. And I'm sure he did a great job. But I'm like, dude, I couldn't stand it the first time. I'm not watching 2 hours and 40 minutes of your recut.
So I commend Barry on this. He has assured
I honestly
me.
Can't imagine the amount of time that he had to spend on that. But there's no way I could watch it. There's no way. It was horrible the first time.
Well, I think if you cut maybe half of it out, you might have a decent film.
It's not, though. It's still 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Really?
Yeah, because he sent me the link, and I'm like, dude, first I thought it was like 2 minutes and 40 seconds. I'm like, oh, cool, I'll watch this.
Oh, yeah.
He did a little 3-minute movie, and then I'm like, what is going on? And then I realized, no, 2 hours.
Okay, besides all of it, what would you cut out?
Well, all of it. I think you had it right the first time.
Yeah, I knew that's why I prefaced that. But to me, so I watched Barry's thing, and I can't judge. No. I watched it up until the point where he did not throw the lightsaber away. And then I was like,
throw what lightsaber
Luke,
away?
At the beginning where Luke throws the lightsaber over his back. When that didn't happen, I was like, okay. And you know, I'm a little repartee between Barry and myself, and which ended in me telling him to kiss my hiney. But you know, anyways, that's my wicked sense of humor. But Barry is like, hey, it was really hard to cut that out. I tried. So there's a guy in South America.
I don't understand. What are you talking about? What was hard to cut out?
So Rey hands him the lightsaber, right? Remember, he takes it and he looks at it and then he throws it over his shoulder.
Right.
To me, that scene ruins the entire movie. I can't take the movie serious. If you could just show him grab it and hold on to it, and then he walks away, like you could imply that he gave it back to Rey. Rey has it later. It doesn't matter who's holding it when he walks away. The point is, he can't throw it, right? Him storming off says it all right there, like he's upset, right? But he can't just chuck it over that was clearly contrived and done for the fans. There's no way he's just going to throw that over his shoulder. He gave it to R2-D2, right? R2-D2 or whoever it is. It's in that chest. The orange chick has it. You know what? I hate her.
That's the lightsaber from his hand getting cut off. He didn't have that lightsaber.
Oh. So who had that lightsaber?
That was when he fought Darth Vader in Empire. And his hand gets cut off.
Oh, dude, I never put 2 and 2 together.
After that.
You're right. How have I never understood that until just now?
Well, that's why she's like, well, how I got it, you know, it's a story for another day. Or
okay,
whatever.
So that was really dumb too. You can't do that, right? You need to tell it right then. We went up inside the trash compactor.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, anyways, I'm ruining this podcast already. That's what I do.
Well, I don't know what to expect. I mean, I'm going to go see the movie. It's going to be what it's going to be.
But when Luke goes, Dad, that was amazing, you go, yeah, boy, it was, right? Like, you're not going to crap on his experience.
Know. It's tough, man. I hate lying to my kids.
I know. But it's for a good cause. It's for Star Wars.
Is it?
It's a righteous lie, Pete.
Is it?
It's like, well, you know, Rahab and the spies.
I guess, man. I guess.
For a good cause.
We'll see.
We will see indeed.
Yeah. What else is new, man?
For me, the book. I checked out 51 books at Point Loma Nazarene University yesterday. They had to override. They go, there's a 10-book limit. And so they had to get the big guns. Big guns came out and said, you have 51 books here. Did you count them? No. Okay, we need 51 books back because we're totally breaking the rules right now. And you need to bring those back, or we're in big trouble. So,
how do you even get a library card for a school you don't go to?
Well, you can have what's called a community library card. So you can check books out. The rule was, when I asked, it says, many as you can carry. Well, I had a guy with me, so I said, cool, we can carry a lot. And anyways, they, the only thing I can't access is they have an amazing amount of like books that are out of print, but they're ebooks. Can't get those. And then the other one is all the journals online. Like when you're a student, you get subscription to like theological journal, biblical studies journal. I can't get those. So I got to actually go and find the physical hard copies, which they don't often have.
And how is this helping you with your book?
Well, it's research.
Isn't your book
a textbook
independent? Its
what do you mean?
Entity?
It is, but you got to prove things in a textbook. So I can't say things like I can't make assertions we all know are true without citing them in an academic book. So, like, for example, John Wesley, the genius of his operation was he was a major organizer and strategist. You have to find a smart person that said it.
Yeah, I would just say it.
Yeah. Oh, and I agree. I mean, the smart person that said it didn't have any credentials to back up what they said, but you have to back up certain assertions that you make.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I'm backing up the wrong ones.
Does it matter that no one's going to read the textbook that you're doing?
Everybody's going to read it. Baby. What are you talking about? This is the Holy Grail that the church has been waiting for. The legend of the Holy Grail is when Arthur drinks it, peace is restored to
Old
the land,
Testament,
he gets his strength back.
New Testament, Peyton's textbook.
No, blasphemy. But every author imagines his book to be like the Holy Grail, right? Like you drink from a draught of this cup, and your youth and vigor are restored, and the church goes back to its former days of glory, like Camelot.
All right, I'm going to take your word for it.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah. I mean, to this end, we labor.
Anything special planned for Christmas?
I'm going to open presents and dip into a stocking. I'm going to see Pete Mitchell on Christmas Day.
Ooh, somebody wants a gift.
Somebody's going to get a present.
Somebody wants a gift.
I figure since you're doing your diet thing, Pepperidge Farm gift pack is off the table, right?
I don't know what that is.
It's where you get like the big giant sausages and blocks of processed cheese.
Dude, all that processed meat? No, thank you.
That stuff's so nasty. I grew up, my mom though, she used to like, and I loved this as a kid. My mom used to give us like, this sounds really weird, but like those processed meat, like they're like these sausage things, lollipops, meat lollipops. Like, what's up with that? I know, right? And I was talking to my brother about it the other day, and he's like, because my brother has this thing where Christmas, he doesn't care what happens as long as he gets to sit in a corner at some point, read comic books, and eat Slim Jims. I'm like, dude, that is so our upbringing. That's exactly what. And he's like, huh? And I'm like, dude, don't you remember? So that was kind of a cool little nostalgic moment. What are you going to do?
That's a good question. I'm not 100% sure.
You gonna open presents?
Dude, I'm like looking at my lip. Is there like a little dark?
I noticed that. There? I noticed you looking at yourself. Is there what?
Darkness right there, like a freckle.
It's a shadow. It's just a shadow, dude. Oh yeah, I do see a freckle. Do you have a freckle there?
I don't know.
Yeah, you do. Okay, podcast listeners, right now, Pete is pulling the camera way up to his upper lip. This podcast has gone to a new low. If you're listening right now,
everyone to watch the Zoom version of this on our Facebook page.
Now's the time that I should put out there that, hey, if you want to sponsor anything on the Church Planner podcast,
I love it.
We've got openings, and it would fit nicely between Pete's little freckle in his dimple, which he just discovered.
Yeah, I know, man.
Apparently, someone doesn't study himself. I thought you look in the mirror as an entrepreneur every day and go, "You're smart enough.
You're good enough.
Good enough.
Gosh darn it, people like you.
People like you."
Yeah, no, that's not what we do. Not at all.
No, that's rad.
Thanks for reminding me of the fact that I don't do that every day.
Maybe that's what's going wrong.
With life.
Hey, what's your piece on war then? What else is going on, man?
Man, just getting ready to launch some new stuff. Wayne and I working on americasfitnessclub.com.
Nice.
And we'll be launching that in the days after Christmas.
Nice.
Take advantage of the fact that everyone sets up New Year's resolutions, and we're gonna give them something else to spend some money on.
Nice.
If you still want to hook up with that for free, guys, too bad, too late. Now you got to pay money on lots of it.
That's great.
See. Yeah. So that's about ready to get kicked off here. Yeah. I mean, just doing that and doing my usual stuff. I don't know, man. I can't really say I got a whole lot going on.
It's that time of year, isn't it?
I've been fighting a cold the last few days.
Oh, I've got it.
Yeah.
I've got it, man. I've had a cold for days, except I got 8 hours sleep last night. I went to bed at like 9 o'clock.
Wow.
Woke up at 5. So I normally get 6.5, 7. But you can't tell by my eyes. I mean, I look pretty dang tired. But I feel good.
Yeah.
But I still got sexy voice. I got that Barry White voice going on.
I can tell it's
right
been a
on.
while since you've shaved your head.
It has. Do you see that fuzz?
Let me tell you, I see the scrub. What I think is funny is Andrea made a point to tell Jamie, yeah, Peyton promised me he would never shave his head.
Yeah, I lied.
Like that.
I lied.
I was like, well, apparently someone's a little still upset that someone else is shaving his head.
So the other day, I got up quickly and I hit my head on, we have this cabinet where all of our Cat 5 cables and internet and everything is since the remodel. And it's this weird, high-tech looking plastic cabinet. And I hit my head on it really hard coming up. And so I can't shave my head right now because it'll just literally you can't razor a scab, right?
Yeah, no,
sorry, that's gross, everybody. I'm sorry.
No,
but that's why I'm Shaggy Dog right now, because it would just do a massive amount of damage if I did that. So I gotta pretend I'm a hippie and have that 1 centimeter fuzz on my head.
Jamie hates the stark white soul patch that I got.
It is stark white. Do you ever? So at our age,
which is what makes me grow it out all the more.
I know.
Does that annoy you? Oh, well, then I gotta go for the full.
That's hilarious.
Soul patch.
Ooh, it does make you look cool.
Well,
So let me ask you, at our age, people dye their hair a lot, and I gotta ask you, is that a thing that you've considered, or is that the kind of thing where I'm surprised how many people around our age start dyeing their hair?
Well, you got to understand, redheads can't do that. So
you can't.
No, because no one makes our red.
That's funny. It is true, because your red has when you see someone with red hair, it's not just one color. There's depths to it.
Well, and most of the time when you see red hair, you can tell when someone's had their hair dyed red and it doesn't look
right. Right.
Yeah,
it's almost like you got to do a brown and then put ginger highlights in it.
My kids don't think I have red hair. They're like, no, your hair is brown. I'm like, kids, this is called red. Now, granted, it used to be redder when I was younger.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I didn't know that. But you could dye that piece. You could dye that piece like a brown. Is it the color or is it the shape? She doesn't like.
No, it's the color. Oh, that she claims it's the color. I kind of want to go stark black, just have this black, soul patch right there.
Yeah. Then we'd have to call you Bone Daddy. You'd be like Jazzman Pete.
I don't know what that means, but okay.
Me neither.
All right.
Catmandu Mitchell. That's what we call you.
I did have to trim it back.
Scatman.
It was getting too wily, man. I had little hairs going every which way.
Nice. Mine does that all the time. I mean, mine is a big full.
Yeah, but see, you actually, puberty actually hit you. I'm still waiting on puberty to hit me because I can't grow like that.
Yeah.
If I could, I probably would have.
Yeah. Oh, you look good with one of those.
Yeah, but I can't. Right now, it'd be stark white.
You'd make a good Viking.
I would.
If you had that big Viking beard. Oh, you totally would, dude. You get that snarl going.
Did you hear about the Viking named Rudolph? And he was like telling his wife, he's like, "Hey, it's gonna rain tomorrow." And she goes, "How do you know?" And he goes, "Because Rudolph the Red knows rain, dear."
Oh no, that is the ultimate. That's a complex dad joke right there.
Rudolph the Red, that was his name.
Rudolph the Red knows reindeer.
He knows rain, dear.
Oh, nice. Now, where did you hear that from? You heard that from
That's a meme, baby. Where do I get all of my news? Facebook.
Wow, that's true. That's true. It never fails every week. I see a meme. I'm about to tag you, and although I did tag you in the one where it showed the one football player looking at the other football player, and I was like, that's how Pete Mitchell looks at me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't remember who it was. I don't know sports, but it was like, find someone who looks at you like this football player looks at this football player. And sure enough, the one's getting interviewed and the other guy's he's just looking and smiling, but it looks funny.
Yeah.
And, so anyways, but
there's
hey,
a great ad floating around Facebook, and it's like, it says something along the lines of, all dogs do is sit around waiting all day for you to show up home. And they're like trying to sell like a little machine that you can like see your dog during the day, and you can like give them treats and stuff, via your phone, via the app.
It just feeds them out a little cracker, kind of like on Lost kind of when they get the fish cracker out of the polar bear cage.
And it reminded me of this meme that was like, look, the line that every human year is 7 years for a dog, right? The whole dog years thing. And they're like, well, think about it. Think about that time frame. That means if you're gone away from your dog for 8 hours, that's the equivalent of being gone for like 15 days. No wonder your dog is so excited when you get home at the end of the day. They've been missing you for 15 days.
I don't think that's true, because then it's like I'm with them for like 15. I think time is the same to an animal. I think that's a myth.
I think
that's a whole dog years thing that we made up.
I think you're missing the point of the story, but that just
I am.
Me.
Their powers don't work on me. They're Jedi mind tricks.
Just go back and play with your tortoise. Okay.
Oh, but if she's not dead, if I haven't killed her, thanks for bringing that up, Pete. Yeah. Oh, of course. Well, she's missing all winter. That's normal, but she might have been missing before winter. We don't know. But that's the struggle of every tortoise owner out there who knows my pain. Did they leave me? We live in
gate. Close the gate.
Close the gate. Yeah, that's my infamous. Do you still have that as my call sign when I call you? Little Close picture pop up. No, the little tortoise. He's trying to get in my office. I took this rad shot of him, and he's like straining to get in. I sent you a picture.
No.
Oh, you used to have that as your picture when I call you.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Oh, okay.
Must have been a Facebook picture of yours, and
maybe.
My phone like it sucks over the Facebook picture.
Our old listeners will remember. So, hey, anyways, should we get into today's topic?
Great, Scott. It's time for this week's topic. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty.
Or it puts the lotion on its skin. Or no, that was wrong. It puts the podcast on its skin. No? Still not going to work? Okay, I'll just leave that one. Right. But you got to admit, my chewing bubblegum one was all right. It was all right last week. I just figured maybe every week I come up with a new movie quote.
Here, I'm going to look studious for this part of the podcast.
Oh, nice.
Okay, now, Peyton, tell me a little bit about your insight.
It's funny. I do want to do a photo op for this textbook coming up. I want to do where, my old book, right? It's Indiana Jones.
A black turtleneck and be doing like the side profile for the back cover of the book.
No, you know what I want to do is I want to simulate Indiana Jones for my old book, because that was the theme. And my new book, simulate in the classroom.
All right.
Dr. Jones.
Let me know how it goes.
In Indiana.
Let me know how it goes.
It goes awesome in my head. When I was in the shower the other day, I'm like, oh! So, but, the world has yet to see it.
Yeah.
So, okay. So today's topic is, I always like to do this towards the end of the year. And Pete, maybe you can help out with this because, hey, don't yawn yet. Don't yawn. You're part of this. This time we're going to let Pete talk. In fact, we're going to make Pete talk, right? So Pete, you got to talk. You got to be a part of this. So at the end of your year, you got to take stock on everything that happened. That's my job. I should be muting on my end. And you need to start. You need to start planning ahead for what's coming. So a big part of that is, what do we want to see this year? What are our goals? What's the vision God's given us? And what's happened this year? I do this every year personally. I take stock. I look at all the things that happen. I have a notebook I use that has all my goals in it. And, and I get away and I pray about this and I spend some time with God. And I would strongly urge for all of you guys, not to allow just another year to bleed into the next. God put yearly cycles in place, right? We count the age of the earth that way. We count the age of our years that way. And, God put cycles, monthly, the lunar calendar, all the festivals were based on the month. The months, the Hebrew months are based on the moon. Everyone else's is too, because God clearly set up a system, a calendar system for us. So the number of times Earth revolves around the sun is one time in a calendar year. So we have got to look at that. We got 365 days in a year. So the question is, as you, and even things like a Sabbath year, God had 7, cycles of 7 years. And the earth, during that time, you were meant to set people free. So there's this whole idea of taking stock at the end of a certain amount of years. And I think, for each one of us, I'm gonna shut up because Pete, I see a thought brewing, so I'll shut up. What are you thinking?
It puts the lotion in the basket.
So anyways, I have a name. So anyways, what about you, Pete? Like, what do you do at the end of the year?
His name is Robert Paulson. You don't even know that movie, do you?
Don't.
I did that to you once before.
You did, and I didn't get it. His name is Robert Paulson. It'll come back to me.
What he's saying is, in death, we have our name. Fight Club, baby. Fight Club.
His name is Robert. Oh, that's the big Fight dude. This Meatloaf in it. It's been so long. I haven't watched a movie since like 2000.
Dude, Fight Club was like...
It's like 20 years ago I watched that thing.
That was a wonderful movie.
It was a really good movie. I got to agree with you there.
Meatloaf.
So what about you, Paul? Or Pete? Why do I keep calling you Paul today? My head's been stuck in Paul for like weeks now. What about you, man? What's your I mean, every business has to take stock at the end of the year, right? But that's monetary. I'm not talking about monetary. But what about you? Like, how do you work out at the end of the year? What do you do to close up and start again?
It's very similar to what you were just talking about. And that is not really looking at what did I accomplish? So that's probably something that I should do. But always looking at what do I want to accomplish over the next year. I mean, just like how everyone has New Year's resolutions and all that other. I mean, I do the same thing, just, usually business related.
Well, it's funny. You mentioned New Year's resolution. Like a lot of people rebel against that whole idea. I'm big on it.
What, New Year's resolution?
Yeah, I'm big.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember one New Year's resolution. I was like, I don't want to eat French fries that year. And I remember it was like late March, and someone was like, why aren't you eating French fries? And I'm like, well, it was my New Year's resolution. And the guy was like, what are you, crazy? It's late March. No one keeps them that long. I'm like, well, that was my New Year's resolution.
2019, maybe? Well, I mean, hey, so when you started getting in shape, did you start that a year ago?
No.
Nope. What was kind of the catalyst for you? I mean, because you kept it quiet. I remember you keeping that quiet for a while.
No, I wasn't keeping it quiet.
I called you one day and you're like, oh yeah, I'm on the exercise bike or something like that. And I'm like, what? And you're like, oh yeah, I started working out.
But that doesn't mean I was keeping it quiet.
Well, you weren't hiding it. You just weren't talking about it yet.
Upset? Are you upset that I didn't Facebook it? Hey guys, I'm on the exercise bike. Look at me. Woohoo!
No, but you weren't really talking about it though. You were just kind of doing your thing.
About.
Well, and that's what I'm saying, But what was the motivator for you? Like, how did that all come about?
Well, I mean, I don't think there's an easy answer for that. like we said on, a number of podcasts ago, I don't think anyone's happy being out of shape and not healthy. And I just, I think everybody wants to be in shape and to be healthy and all that jazz. And so I just,
but there was, you went for it. Like you didn't just,
but I didn't like, I just was like, okay, look, I'm going to start exercising. So I started off doing the cardio thing, and I started off. Did I lose you? Are you gone?
No, I'm here. Just picking my nose.
What?
I did turn my video off so I could pick my nose.
Take that off. That would have been great for our video.
It's precious. It's special. That's meant only for me. I have a cold, so it's it's not pretty.
That could have been just a wonderful booger. Just wonderful.
Not the screenshot you want to advertise this podcast with. Remember, we have openings.
Sponsors. Anyone would like to sponsor us? Nah, so it was just like, well, I'm gonna start doing this stuff and start having results, and results always inspire you to keep going and doing more and things like that. I was doing it the hard way. I was doing it the inefficient way.
Right.
And then, a big change for me happened when I watched a documentary, and I was like, wait a second. This is why I'm hungry all the time. This is why I hit plateaus and I'm not losing any weight, even though I know I'm hardly eating anything and I'm exercising every day. And I was like frustrated. And that had everything to do with what's called added sugars in our diet. And we just don't realize all the processed food, how much sugar they add to everything. And so when I cut all of that out, that's when everything became easy. And that's when everyone's like, wow, man, you're losing weight. Because it became obvious. Like you couldn't not see it because, you start losing 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, right now down like almost 88 pounds. You're going to notice it, right?
Right.
You're going to see it. So,
Yeah, for sure, man.
So it wasn't like a New Year's resolution. It was just I want to get in shape. And then when you start seeing more and more results, then it's like, wow, well, this is cool. And then now it's like, it's just easy. Like now I get it. I understand the drill. I understand what makes you unhealthy, overweight. I understand what's going on a biological level that I never understood before. And so now it's like, all right, well, there are certain things I will do and certain things I won't do because, I was talking about this with Wayne on a podcast we were doing. When Thanksgiving happened, we went up to Bakersfield, which is where a lot of my extended family lives. And they were having this big get together, and I'm literally looking around at everyone. And there was like one fit person, maybe two fit people. Everyone else was overweight, bad health. And I remember thinking to myself, I have to get in shape because my genetics suck.
Right.
Look at my family. It's not like I can look at it and go, oh, I come from good stock. No, I'm looking at everyone going, this is my future if I don't get my crap in order. And of course, by Thanksgiving, I was on the way, 70, 75 pounds down, something like that.
Right.
And so it was just like, okay, I have to be different in how I live and how I eat and how I treat myself.
Right. No, that's good, man. And, so for you, it was watching that documentary. And I think that what's kind of cool is that there's usually like some kind of, trigger or some kind of demarcation in our life where you suddenly you flick a switch. It normally isn't like an ease into it kind of thing because we just keep putting it off.
Yep.
And to me, that's what the new year signifies. It's just a natural kind of hard stop to what you're doing before and a chance to begin again because the earth begins again. Creation begins again. There's a cycle that goes, and it's kind of weirdly placed for us in our year. Like the new year could start at any time, right? Like it could be anywhere on that 12. You could Chinese New Year's, partway through January, right? It doesn't matter where the new year, but there is a yearly cycle is my point. Like I said, it would make more sense if spring were like the beginning of the new year for us, but for me personally,
No, but instead we should do a new year right in the middle of winter. All right. That makes perfect sense.
Sir, and I'd like to propose daylight savings time because that makes a lot of sense too. Must have been the same guy.
Exactly. Totally was.
But, so as you look at it, it's kind of like, to me, I find it a tool. I find it a helpful tool. And, it's funny because in the olden days, we're going to morph into your church because your church, if you're planting a church, this is a great time to kind of relook at where you're going, like assess things. And we'll come back to that. But, maybe make some resolutions. But the whole idea of like resolutions is very biblical. Well, no. Sorry, not biblical. It's very Christian. Let's put it that way. In church history, you have people like Jonathan Edwards. He's got, just a buttload. I think it's like 70 odd resolutions that he made for his life, right? Wesley came up with resolutions for his circuit riders, what he would call his assistants or his helpers or whatever. They were kind of like his apostolic outriders. And he had resolutions that he set for them. He's like, hey, I need you guys to hold by these. So resolutions are, they're a kind of thing that the church has repeatedly done. And why not? Because after all, I mean, in the same way that you're looking at your fitness and you're going, hey, I want to be healthier. Wouldn't that kind of be a natural thing for a Christian that you like, for example, like here's kind of the obvious one. If you're looking at porn, right, and you're trying to like plan a church and walk in the Spirit and be a spiritual leader, would it just kind of make sense that you would say, hey, I don't want to look at porn anymore, right? So maybe starting January 1st or what, I know this sounds really weird, right? Because repentance is a daily thing. But wouldn't it make sense that you would kind of, do whatever you had to do, kind of like Jesus says, you cut it off, but you say, look, I'm setting new goals, like setting goals, hating what's evil, clinging to what is good. This is like a daily rhythm for us. And, I want to grow more and more like Jesus every day that I'm alive. And I fail miserably at, particularly the positive stuff. Like, I think it's a lot easier to not do evil than it is to do good, personally. But, I would like to pray more. I like just not doing things. It's like you not eating something, right? Like, but it's doing it's going that positive direction, like working out or, taking the extra time and effort to eat the right stuff, right?
Sure.
Well,
that was the end of my contribution.
Well, I mean, but honestly, like I can remember, because I remember one year where you're like, dude, I really got to read the Bible more. And remember you were talking about it a little bit on the podcast a few years ago, where you would even bring up, and then that's when you told me I was wrong about who was it that
Enoch
didn't see the Enoch, and
we got some funny stories of that Enoch guy.
He's like, no, I think you're wrong on this, but you were reading the Bible a lot more, and I think, for those of us that aren't reading or praying, that's a big deal, right? Like if you're not reading or praying, kind of starting in those Bible in a year plans, it's a great time to grab one of those.
Sure.
Gosh, you suck, Mitchell.
I don't know what you want me to say. Preach it, Peyton. Way to go.
An anecdote, a little story, if you will, a little your personal experience, maybe. See, I think I do it to you, but sure. I'm now learning you do it to me.
What? What are you talking about?
You make me talk all this time, don't you, Pete?
Well, I don't know what you want me to say. Go for it, brother.
Oh, just spiritual, what I'm talking about, spiritual resolutions. Like, do you ever make those or do you not make those?
That's a great question, man. Do I ever make spiritual resolutions? Ever? I'm sure I have. But kind of like you said, it's a daily thing because if it's an annual thing, most people, 21 days and you've given up your New Year's resolution. So I don't want that stuff to fall into that category.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's a good point. And when you say that, that makes me immediately think of like going to the church. Like one of the things I used to do every year for the church plant was I would ask people, I'd say, hey, I know a lot of you guys are new to giving, yada, yada. And, we're not on a strict tithe system anymore, according to the Old Testament, yada, yada. But why not stretch yourself? I would say that 10, if that was the Old Testament dispensation, you give 10% of your income, why not have that just be a nice little marker of, I think that's pretty reasonable. And when you actually brought it up, I think they worked out that it was something like 23% if you took in like then Passover and all that cost and some of the other stuff you had to do, some of the other feasts, that they worked out, it was actually closer to around 23% of people's income. But, just having 10%, and I would tell people, look, I know a lot of you guys are, you're new to this and, your finances aren't in order, but why not this year make it a goal to increase your giving by 1% until it reaches 10%. Put yourself on a 10-year plan and say, this year I'm going to give 1% of my income. If I make $10,000 a month, that's $100. Now my math isn't so good, but I think I'm right on that, right, Pete? That's $1,000 or $100 a month. And why not work up to $1,000 a month, like over the next 10 years? Just every year you bump up 1%. And normally people could handle that, because you were asking them to increase their giving. They could see where it was going. Everybody could probably give an extra $100. I mean, some people can't, but you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like that was something very tangible for people. And so we would look at that. Then we would start a Bible through the year, maybe together, or we would talk to them about it. I would always do a New Year's message. Usually people go to where Paul says, not that I'm perfect or have been made complete, but one thing I do, forgetting what is behind, I press on and look towards what is ahead, right? The upward call, laying hold of that for which Christ Jesus laid hold of me, the upward call. So there's that idea of, where self-improvement is a huge thing right now in our culture. I mean, that's the biz. If you really want to start speaking the language of the culture, talk about self-improvement. And of course, Paul comes in and says, hey, bodily training, physical training is of some value. But he goes on to say, but spiritual training, press yourself to godliness. That holds value for this world and the world to come. So he's telling you, put that same effort into what you're putting into your body, put that into your soul. And so you could definitely start hitting on that. I think one of the things we have to do as leaders is take a look and break it down in some of the categories. Like if you look at, something like an Antioch church. I just picked up a book yesterday at this library. And of course, I'm up at the butt crack of dawn looking in these books and trying to figure stuff out. But listen to there's a book. I haven't read it yet, but I looked at the table of contents and I was really impressed. It's called The Antioch Effect. Now, if you know this book and this leader's had some scandal, don't I don't know this thing. I don't know anything about this guy. But anyways, these were the things that he said were hallmarks of Antioch. Number one, supernatural power. So maybe walk through and say, have we been walking in the supernatural power of God, or we've been walking in the flesh as a church? Well, how would we up that? Do we pray? Do we have times where we're waiting on God, waiting to hear his voice? Do we have prophetic leadership? Are we open to the gifts? Like there's all these things that you could get away and start to take stock of and say, well, how do we grow in this area? Maybe I need to reach out to somebody who is more charismatic. Maybe I need to reach out across the aisle and talk to someone from a denomination or someone I know who walks in the supernatural a little bit more than I do. Hey, you're picking your nose. That's awesome. You made me feel good just then.
I actually was just rubbing this little nostril right here.
Oh, you're itching. You're itching the interior of your nose.
I did that just for everyone who's going to watch us on Zoom. There you go, guys, right there.
I was trying to see what a nose ring might feel like right there. So then the second thing that he's got is it says Christ exalting worship. Is your worship Christ exalting, or is it like an emotional experience? That's one thing you could look at, God connecting prayer is a third one. Are you guys just doing like the token prayer midway through the service, or is there like an actual time where you guys are regularly connecting? Are you praying in your small groups? How do you kind of improve the prayer life of individuals? I think for me, when I look at the church, to me, the church isn't healthy in prayer if the individuals aren't growing in prayer. It doesn't matter what the church does when it's together. If the individuals aren't personally growing, that has to be the litmus test. So are we teaching our people to pray? Like the disciples said, Lord, teach us to pray. What about servant leaders? Do people want to serve? Are we allowing people to serve? Are we allowing people to serve in their gifts? Are we letting people pursue their passions? There's so many different things. Or is it the 20-80 rule? Well, is that what I read about? I mean, most leadership books tell you that's normal. But when I read about that in the book of Acts, that doesn't seem to be the case. It seems to be body ministry. What about, he has kingdom family relationships. I don't know what he means by that, so I can't look at that. But maybe you're measuring your fellowship. Or are people building relationships with one another outside of church? Are they forming, bonds, friendships? Number 6, God-sized vision. I think all of us kind of know what we want to do and what we want our church to do, but have you stood back and maybe like thought big thoughts? Like, what if we planted, certain churches think, like I talked to a guy this week, been talking to a number of guys across the country that they have God-sized visions. In order to accomplish their God-sized visions, like I talked to one leader, he was like, for us to plant as many churches as we want to plant, we all had to get off full-time paid staff so we could pour this money into church planting. And so we're all bivocational. I mean, that was massive. Maybe you don't want to have that conversation, but they had a God-sized vision, and they were literally willing as a leadership to make huge sacrifices to reach that vision. It was a God-sized vision. I mean, he told me what their vision was, and it was crazy. But, when you see people investing like that, you're like, you're probably going to reach that. Passion for the lost. Where's that at with my church? Do I have a passion for the lost? Am I burdened? If not, how do I grab that burden? How do I get that burden? How do I increase in that? All the people God has used greatly since the dawn of the church in Jerusalem at Pentecost, all of them have been burdened for lost people. You cannot do work for God if you're not burdened for lost people. And then lastly, hey, where'd you go? Where'd you go? Your screen disappeared. Oh, what was going on there, Pete? I knew it. I knew you had a booger. So anyways, the welcome to the Church Planter Podcast, everyone. And then the last thing, I closed the book there. It was like we're done. The maturation of believers. And that's not mastication, not chewing them up and spitting them out, but maturation. Are they becoming disciples who make disciples? Are they becoming leaders of leaders? And by the way, that's my litmus test is, I don't believe, and I go into this in the new book coming up, I don't believe the elders have to be called. They're appointed biblically. Deacons are appointed. Elders are appointed. Apostles are called because you have to be called out to be sent out. But elders, Paul just says, hey, find guys like this, find girls like that. The reality is I want every single one of the people in my church to be resemble the life of an elder or a deacon, to meet all those qualifications. I want them to be able to lead others. And I think leadership is not something you have to be called to. I think it's something that comes when you have gone deeper and deeper into discipleship. We've even talked about that my theory is the more, the people that become leaders are the people that were discipled well, and then start discipling others. So So that's it. So
That
those are
explains
some
why
things.
I'm not a leader in the church, because I wasn't discipled well by my pastor.
Well, well, not now, but back when you were with me, you became a mighty podcaster before the Lord. Let's be honest. Like Nimrod, if anything else, we resemble Nimrod, who was a mighty hunter before the Lord, but surely we're mighty podcasters before the Lord.
Mighty podcasters.
Well, hey, all I know is we had that whole discussion about who's had the greatest influence on who, but yeah, I can't speak for where you're at now. I mean, I'm pretty sure since you left my care, you're a wreck, but
since I've left your care, I never felt like I was under your care.
That's funny.
When was I ever under your tutelage?
So that's my piece on war, guys. Take stock. I mean, there's just a healthy list of topics there for you to stop and look at your church. That's a book called The Antioch Effect. Can't recommend it because I haven't read it, but those are his criterions for, hey, we've tried everything else. Why not go back to the book and look at Antioch? Because surely that's what Paul went out to reproduce. And I think he's on to something there.
Yeah.
So anyways, well, hey guys, one last thing. Pete, while you're busy trying to make a church like Antioch and doing all this soul searching and navel gazing,
what?
Who's going to do your end of year tax giving? That's coming right up.
I'm going to reach out to QuickBooks.com. Wait, no, sorry.
Nope, not that one.
SimplifyChurch.com. SimplifyChurch.com.
And if you go there right now, they've got like a cool little Facebook group and they got all this kind of stuff they're promoting. They're starting to do courses and all kinds of cool things. So check them out at SimplifyChurch.com. And guys, anyways, this has been the Church Planner Podcast, reminding you that if you want to go where nobody's going, you need to do. If you want to reach the ones no one's reaching, this is 2019 getting off to a bad close. You need to go where nobody's going and do what nobody's doing, and stop picking your nose.
I was not picking my nose.
I was talking to the audience there.
Oh.
In case we led them astray.
Okay.
And by the way, guys, I won't be around for the next few weeks because I'll be on vacation. So I leave you in the very capable hands of Pete Mitchell.
I made money the old-fashioned way. I got run over by a Lexus.
That's a spicy meatball.
Thanks for joining us for another weekly episode of the Church Planner Podcast with Pete Mitchell and Peyton Jones. We'd love to hear your comments on this episode of the Church Planner Podcast. Visit us online and let us know what you thought at churchplannerpodcast.com. If you subscribe to us via iTunes and have enjoyed the podcast, leave us a positive review. The more positive reviews we receive in iTunes, the more iTunes will promote us to other church planners who would benefit from this show. This podcast is brought to you by the Church Planner Magazine, which is available in the iTunes newsstand or online via churchplannermagazine.com.